So it's a real honor to be here today and announce this wonderful speaker series that is going to be perennially at the Bascom Palmer Eye Institute, the Diane and John Clarkson Endowed speaker series on advances in global ophthalmic education. See if I can forward here. Try again. There we go. So in May of 2021, through the generosity of the Ophthalmology Research Foundation, which is directed by Dr. Clarkson, and an endowment that Dr. and Mrs. Clarkson provided, we created this annual speaker series that will feature specialists in global ophthalmic education. The honorees will include international speakers from various ophthalmic specialties to share advances in the treatment of eye diseases. So let me tell you a little bit about Dr. Clarkson, for those of you who may not know, and I know John is watching right now on the web. John is a nationally recognized practitioner, researcher, educator, and healthcare administrator with a celebrated career in ophthalmology spanning more than 40 years. He was the former executive director and the chief executive officer of the American Board of Ophthalmology, Dean Emeritus of our own medical school here, the University of Miami Miller School of Medicine, Chair Emeritus of the Bascom Palmer Eye Institute, and he took over the chairmanship after our first chairman, Dr. Norton, past president of the American Ophthalmological Society and the Macula Society. And he has authored many scientific publications, and he currently serves on the board of Healthcare Justice at North Carolina group, which advocates for universal healthcare for all Americans. John has been awarded in many ways, but some of them are of great significance to us. He was chosen as the National Physician of the Year with a Lifetime Achievement Award by top doctors, America's top doctors, in 2012. And this was to recognize his dedication to research and practice in ophthalmology. In 2015, he received the Lucien Howe Medal of the American Ophthalmological Society, perhaps the most distinguished award that we have in our profession. That same year, here at the Bascom Palmer Eye Institute, through the generosity of one of Dr. Clarkson's two former patients, the John G. Clarkson Endowed Chair in Medical Education was funded, and the first recipient will be of this endowed chair will be introducing the speaker today. That's Dr. Steve Getty. John also has stayed quite involved with the Bascom Palmer Eye Institute, not only as a chair emeritus, someone I have gone to many times to ask for advice. And by the way, John was also my mentor when I joined the residency here in 1981. He was assigned as my mentor and has remained so for many years. And he continues to serve as the executive director of the Ophthalmology Research Foundation, which is solely exists to support the Bascom Palmer Eye Institute. He is also a volunteer in the Lions Eye Clinic in Charlotte, where indigent patients who need eye care are treated. John and Diana Clarkson were married in 1964, and Diana has been a true partner to John. She was always available to be part of the team, and as John was getting his medical degree, Diana was bringing food to the house by teaching elementary school, and she continued to do that for many years. We all know her, and we know that she's an amazing wife, mother, and grandmother. And currently, Diana continues to be quite involved in many projects, including the church in Charlotte, where she volunteers. They have been prolific, not only in giving of themselves to all of us, but also in raising a family. And here you see their kids, Paige and David, and then all their grandchildren. And as you can see, they all have the Clarkson DNA, since all have a bow tie on. It's been wonderful that John has been and Diana have been so much linked to the history of the Bascom Palmer Eye Institute, and not only through the John Clarkson Chair, but now Diana and John will be forever linked to the Bascom Palmer Eye Institute through this lectureship. So the introduction of the lecture will be given the lecturer will be given by Dr. Stephen Getty. Dr. Getty, as I said, is the first holder of the John Clarkson Chair here at the Bascom Palmer Eye Institute, which is specifically a chair dedicated to education and to the directorship of the Global Education Center, which sponsors all of our educational activities. So Dr. Getty is remote. Steve, take it on.
Great. Can you see my slides, everyone?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Great. Well, it's a great pleasure and privilege to introduce a true icon in ophthalmology and a longtime friend of the Bascom Palmer Eye Institute, and that's Dr. Juan Baye. As you heard, Juan is the inaugural Diana and John Clarkson lecturer. Juan is currently the founder and chief of ophthalmology of the Elias Santana Center, which has been devoted to serving underprivileged patients in the Dominican Republic. He is also a founder and president of Centro de Microcirugía, Banco de Corneas, and Centro Laser, and the Laser Center. Juan was born and raised in Santo Domingo, and he attended college and medical school at Duke University. His academic success as an undergraduate earned him membership in Phi Beta Kappa, and he graduated summa cum laude. He was inducted into the Alpha Omega Alpha Medical Honor Society as a medical student, and he remained at Duke University for his internship. Juan then came to the Bascom Palmer Eye Institute, where he has been a legend ever since. Juan completed his residency at Bascom Palmer, followed by a chief residency and fellowship training in vitreoretinal diseases and surgery, neuro-ophthalmology, and pediatric ophthalmology. I can attest that Juan has also made extraordinary contributions in the field of glaucoma, so I'd like to throw in an honorary glaucoma fellowship here as well. Some of his professional achievements include a president of the Dominican Society of Ophthalmology, a pioneer in the use of amniotic membrane in surgical treatments, a delegate of the International Agency for Prevention of Blindness, president of the Pan American Eye Bank Association, creation of Agency for Prevention of Blindness in the Dominican Republic, installation of 7 satellite eye clinics in the Dominican Republic, founder of the Alliance of Institutions Caring for the Handicapped, and project director of the National Survey of Blindness and Diabetes in the Dominican Republic. Major projects Juan has led include creation of the residency training program and community eye service at Elias Santana Center, lobbying for a corneal donation law, which was approved and passed, director of the National Committee for the Prevention of Blindness, project administrator for Sight First mega project, clinical research for national and international companies, over 120 presentations worldwide, and over 30 publications, including 5 books and he has been an advisor for more than 157 research works of ophthalmology residents to present to the National Congress of the Dr. Elias Santana Hospital. Juan has received a large number of accolades, which are really too numerous to list in their entirety, but he received JC's Supreme Circle Award, the Carl Kupfer Award for Prevention of Blindness, and the Board of Trustees Achievement Award from the American Academy of Ophthalmology. Juan also received humanitarian awards from Duke University's School of Medicine, as well as the College of Arts and Sciences. And he was recognized as a scientific researcher in the health sciences area of the National Career of Researchers in Science, Technology, and Innovation by the Ministry of Higher Education, Science, and Technology in Santo Domingo. Juan has many outside interests, including horseback riding and tennis. And I'm sure he plays regularly with his wife, Yolanda, who is a former national tennis champion. Juan also enjoys baseball, scuba diving, beekeeping, and prevention of blindness and charitable pursuits. Here is the Baye family, and pictured clockwise from the top left are his sons, Juan Francisco and Alejandro, and you can see Juan. Next to him is his son-in-law, Angel Garcia, daughter Nicole, grandchildren Juan Francisco and Federico Ettore, his wife Yolanda, and daughter-in-law Liza. I think Juan would be the first to agree that there's nothing more important than family, and he has long been considered a part of the Bascom Palmer family. Juan has had an incredible impact on global ophthalmic education, and there's really no one more fitting to serve as the inaugural Diana and John Clarkson lecturer. And he'll be discussing advances in global ophthalmic education. Juan.
Thank you so much, Steve. You have been very generous. I saw those things and I couldn't believe it was me. I would like to initiate this talk by thanking also my wife, Yolanda, who has made all this possible, every little bit of it, even when we started here at the Bascom Palmer Eye Institute. So coming to Miami, and this notification of the award came to me about 3 months ago, thanks to Dr. Eddie Alfonso. Eddie Alfonso not only leads the best eye center in the United States and probably the world, but he was also my best man. And our friendship extends way back. Bascom Palmer to me, and as I walked through the hallways and entered the Redder Auditorium, has been a very influential part of my life, my career, everything that I have done. And I cherish memories as I walk into the auditorium of those days when we were here with the founders of the institution. I would also like to thank, and I know he's up in North Carolina, my homeland, I guess, into the United States, Dr. John Clarkson and Diana for this recognition and invitation, and to their beautiful family there. John was my hero. I used to go with Dr. Flynn and Dr. Clarkson when ROP was still a mystery, and he helped to classify and also develop the techniques for the cure and treatment of this condition many years back. This lecture will be about ophthalmic education, and I consider those that are here and those that are watching us through the Zoom meeting heirs of what it is, the Norton vision, heirs of the Norton legacy. For we are probably privy to something that most people do not have in the rest of the world. Norton was a visionary. He was a man who had a great outlook for what was to come, and probably his vision extended 30, 40, even 50 years ahead of time. In choosing his original faculty, he was very careful to have leaders in every one of the subspecialties, and an eye for talent, for knowing those who had the heart in the right place, people who in their subspecialties developed incredible concepts. Someone like Dr. Don Gass, who was the first to discover more than 40 diseases of the macula, today considered father of the macula. People like J. Lawton Smith, who we consider the grandfather of neuro-ophthalmology, John Flynn, with this work on ROP. And there's so many attributes that allow the faculty to develop into what Bascom Palmer is today. And much of what I will say today has to do about these people, the people who have made it all happen. And Dr. Alfonso has extended this legacy to an even greater level. And for no good reason, we're #1, and the recognition is well-deserved. And Eddie, of anybody that I have met, it's been wonderful to be your friend, your buddy, and to be a part of this legacy and heritage. But there are so many others at Bascom Palmer that need recognition. And it goes back to the ability to choose the right people, the right talent, and those with the right heart. And each one of them has been illustrated here. And as I walked into the auditorium that in my days was called the Retter Auditorium, now the Jose Barrocal, I came into this institute thanks to Dr. Barrocal. He was the first one to tell me about this institute and say, this would probably be the ideal place for you to train. And Maria and Aldina, who I know are probably watching this, we were friends from when we were teenagers in high school. And so many others who have participated in this creation of the Institute date back to something that was at the heart of what Dr. Norton considered education. And particularly in the connection with Latin America and the Spanish-speaking side of the Americas. And I put in the center Dr. Francisco Fontes, for so many years directed the Inter-American course along with Dr. Alfonso and Dr. Palmberg and Victor Perez. Fontes is not with us today, but he led the course to the point where we had 1,100 assistants from all throughout Latin America before COVID-19. And even now, when we're having our virtual meeting on Friday, we will probably have a record assistance throughout Latin America. And the other vision of Dr. Norton has to do with the power of empowering women. And it's beautiful to see that half of our attendees here are women, because it is being felt, the influence of women in ophthalmology. In my eye center, this group of residents, 8 out of 8 were women, not because they were chosen for that reason, but because they were the best. And I think the power of women is being felt in ophthalmology. And this photograph, which is old, but significant because we had 3 ex-presidents of the American Academy of Ophthalmology standing right where I am now, Dr. Norton, Dr. Blody, and Dr. Duane, heroes in their time of what was to become the future of ophthalmology for the United States and the rest of the world. I must admit that I was greatly mentored. It was not something that happened out of coincidence. All the faculty at the Bascom Palmer Eye Institute, when I was a resident here, very privileged in that respect, mentored to the creation of what probably I became later. And this center became the breeding ground for incredible talent. People who really changed the future of ophthalmic sciences, like Jean-Marie Perel, who has participated in so many research projects, perhaps one of the most important being the creation of a whole field of ophthalmic surgery with the invention and development of the vitreoretinal instruments, then called the VISC. The VISC-10, brought and invented by Dr. Mockerberg, but made possible through the biomedical skills of Jean-Marie, opened the field of vitreoretinal surgery. It would not have happened. Even the optics to allow us to operate within the eye could not have occurred. And I go back to this very old picture of Dr. Jules Gonan, which expresses much of what I will be talking about today, which is that which we know, which we learned, that we so generously receive, is then passed on to the next generation. And Dr. Gonan was the first to understand that retinal detachment occurred because of a retinal tear, but yet his knowledge in Switzerland was passed on to many generations. Bascom Palmer then became the breeding ground, not only for knowledge, research, patient care, but here we have photographs of chairmen of the departments of ophthalmology throughout the United States and throughout the world that received their training and their inspiration through the Bascom Palmer Eye Institute. And going back to the history of ophthalmology, first ophthalmology training school of ophthalmology was in Berlin, in Germany, headed by Albrecht von Graefe. Graefe was also a visionary at his time, died very young. I don't think he reached 50 years of age. And Albrecht von Graefe was the first to create a school of ophthalmic training. And Gracie was always in search of what was known as the scientific truth. And we'll get back to this when we talk about education in general. And he was always correcting himself, recognizing that we make mistakes, that we're not always right, but that through learning, through exchange and sharing with students and also with other colleagues, we become better. Gracie went on to create the first archive of ophthalmology, first journal of ophthalmology, first textbook of ophthalmology. And his legacy is not only made through the academic contribution, but also through his teaching that care for the poor had to be part of what we get returned back to society. And in his clinic, and this was an announcement that would come out, he created a clinic that was free of charge for those people that lived in Germany at the time. So what is the Norton legacy? For him, education was of paramount importance. And even as I speak with Dr. Alfonso and the faculty at Bascom Palmer, it is three things. It's a stool with three legs: patient care, education, teaching, and research. The three legs on which Bascom Palmer has become great. And he has, or led on to us, a number of quotes that I will share with you. One of them was, "The cream rises to the top." And he would refer to those people that are very good somehow, even though at times you feel like the competition is too much, the better will actually become the best. His second line was, "Bascom Palmer is second to none." It was a humble way of saying we're the best. But the fact is that you're implying a competitive spirit. And in that competitive spirit, he would say that residents come in with its background in general medicine, but very little knowledge of ophthalmology as they rise, but they blossom. As they grow through the 3 years of training, they become better. And that's what you look for, not a resident that remains stagnant, but somebody who's actually growing in their knowledge. Norton's favorite line, especially with indirect ophthalmoscopy, and Harry Flynn will probably remember that, is that you don't see with your eyes, you see with your brain. But your brain doesn't see, you will not see. So you have to educate the brain to see that which you have to see. And he would also say that which you are now in residency training, the way you behave, you will probably behave like that for many years, for the rest of your life, and practice the same way. So that's the reason why we take so much care in trimming and molding the way that you will be. And his sense of education, of course, had to do with reading. And at that time, and it was before the internet, a good library was essential. He shared this vision of the library with Dan Albert. And of course, Reva Hertz was the founder with him of the beautiful collection of antique textbooks of ophthalmology that we have at the Bascom Palmer Eye Institute. Publish or perish for the faculty. It was important to publish that which you learned, that which you discovered. And I was speaking with Richard Lee about his work in the cycle photocoagulation, and all of a sudden he's the novel pioneer in the treatment with photocoagulation or cyclophotocoagulation, but yet his knowledge has been accepted in the major journals around the world, and he will be able to share that with everyone. Case of one is a case of none. Many times we are biased by the experience or trauma that we got from a single case, but he says you have to accumulate your cases and develop a pattern. And if you want to learn something new, he would say, read an old book. There are many things that we discover in old literature that all of a sudden we can apply to what we have now. So his concept of teaching was that if you were to see a patient in the clinic, save that image and that clinical record in your mind as if you were putting it into a file in your computer, and then go read about it and go search everything that you can about that case in the literature. Nowadays, it's even easier because on top of that, you have access to videos and surgical techniques in the literature. And then the next time you see a case like that, you just simply add it onto that file. And that's how you accumulate your experience. And the same thing happens when you see a patient, that you will immediately remember them because of the conditions that they have and the options that they have for treatment. In Latin America, at the time when I was training, we had a problem with the lack of libraries. I remember Norton, Nichols, and Barrical made a wander jar trip around Latin America, visiting famous eye centers. And they would ask the chairman of the center, can you show us your library? And they said, no, look here, this clinic is beautiful. It's got the latest technology with Hawkstrike slit lamps and sight slit lamps and beautiful microscopes. And then he said, but where's the library? And I'll show you the operating room. It's got a beautiful microscope and laser treatment, and look at our but where's the library? The point is, many of the centers throughout Latin America, and this is pre-internet time, did not have a library. And this was of great concern, because teaching of ophthalmology without access to the literature is very difficult, and probably led him to what is now the creation of the Curso Interamericano. And he would say that you get out of your residency as much as you put in. If you want to be a lazy bum and just hang around the halls and survive, you're not going to learn very much. But you're an eager beaver and competitive and do the work and the research and continue to accrue interest in whatever it is, your research project or that which you're doing in surgery, and learning the skills that are appropriate. You mature and develop over the years. But the most important thing that he would teach is that you learn to learn. Part of the training of a resident is teaching them how to continue to develop and acquire knowledge throughout their residency training. So he would say that in ophthalmology, you could probably learn ophthalmology in 25 years just by autodidactic teaching, meaning learning by mistakes. There would be a lot of blind people along the way, but in 3 years, we can actually accomplish that through the training of an ophthalmologist, simply by the supervision, the induction, and the system of education that has been prepared for you. One of his favorite lines, and has to do with life in general, is that the faculty needs not only physical space, they need psychological space, they need spiritual space, not just money, because money alone does not make people happy. You just need the ability and the space to be able to develop that which is in your heart. And that is how you contribute to the development of the center. And I know Dr. Alfonso has been wonderful in the development of this beautiful concept. So you give up in the faculty, perhaps the income that you would have made by going into private practice, but in turn, you have the ability to be at the cutting edge of science, to be at the cutting edge of the developments of the technology, to have people that you can teach and multiply your knowledge because they become your pupils. I always speak with Dr. Palberg and ask him how many fellows he has trained now. And he says, oh, 200 in the United States, but 200 more outside of the country. And he speaks with great pride. Faculty members need to read, they need to study, they need to investigate, they need to write and to teach. And it's important because sometimes we, as residents, think that we just need them so that we can consult them about a case, but actually their mind is probably to be respected because they're dedicating themselves to a new concept or something that needs to be published. Lectures, travel, publications, being held elsewhere is important in the development of our institution. For me, Grand Rounds, and I see that in the Zoom meeting, we have so many people attending, was the most amazing and generous experience and exchange of expertise. And even today, as we have more than 300 people watching Grand Rounds today, we know that it is the ability to project this through the faculty, through the residents, to the rest of the world, to the community, showing great respect for the community so that they know what is now available, generously giving to them the concepts that we are here developing for the first time. And this great respect for the community from Dr. Norton was critical because it allowed the Institute to become a tertiary care center, meaning referrals would be received and the patients would be returned back for the primary physician. And Norton had a vision also for the care of the poor. Had to do, many people do not know, to the fact that early on in his life, he developed polio, and he actually was on a lung machine for some time. Fortunately, did not have any sequela from the polio virus. And later, as he was to go into the services, he was also afflicted with a pulmonary condition. So that he himself, being a patient and knowing that there are so many people in life that do not have the resources to reach care, made it possible for this eye institute to be the primary delivery of eye care for the poor people in the community of Miami. And this continues to grow. So I remember in my interview, the main subject that we discussed back in 1979 was Haiti. it being the poorest country in Latin America and the neighbor to the Dominican Republic. And the question, what are you going to do about Haiti? We're trying to help. And I remember Don Gass going on mission trips to Haiti to try to help, even as we speak with the Haitian situation 40 years later being as dreadful as it is. Dr. John Flynn, bless his heart and rest in peace, wrote this beautiful, and it's in the literature and the internet, what he called the Norton Principles. And he would say that the story dates back to an individual by the name of Bascom, which most do not know, was actually an ophthalmologist in practice in the city of Miami when he arrived. And he established this center. He had been handpicked to direct the Department of Ophthalmology at the University of Miami. And this became then the home to an ophthalmology institute second to none in the nation. And in 1958 is when the recruitment of the original faculty began, and only to multiply and develop over time. And that is that eye institutes grow. They make a growth spurt. And I remember Norton going out, walking around the Bascom Palmer Eye Institute, said, we're going to need to buy land because we don't even have space for parking. And he would tell me when he would visit me in the Dominican Republic, Juan, buy the land. The land is critical because these institutions just continue to grow. And he would always say that the three things that you needed for a project were human resources, so have the right people. And I hear Eddie saying that all the time. You have the right people to work with you, you can do anything. The second are the technical resources to be able to develop that capability, and the financial support. And Dr. Norton would go on to say, but get the money first. And that's important in order to make these things happen. So in my preparation for this lecture, I came across many examples of educators in the history of the world, not only in ophthalmology, but education in general. Only to list a few: Socrates, Plato, Confucius in China, John Newman, Aristotle, Jesus Christ, and Al-Ghazali, educators from all around the world. One of the interesting things, and I can't delve on all of them because the time is limited, is that they all had the concept that a human being intimately seeks to pursue happiness. And in the pursuit of happiness, there are things that you have to develop. I will begin with Socrates. Socrates would say that the most important thing is to ask the right question. You must always question what's around you. Don't always take it for granted. And in that question, you will find that which suits you. You just cannot accept that which is imposed on you without actually knowing what it is about it. And the question typically here, and I remember Dr. Flynn had us see the patients, the new patients, and then have them presented to him. And he would ask, tell me, doctor, what do you see and what do you recommend? Meaning that you are taught to make up your mind about what the patient has and what you recommend in their treatment, be it clinical, I saw it today in grand rounds, be it medication, be it an intervention, or be it a surgical procedure. And you have to read, you have to travel, you have to go and experience what is going on in the rest of the world. And boy, are you privileged to have the internet now, because most of the travel can be done from your a cell phone. Attend symposia, learn critical thinking. Don't accept everything that comes at your way. Always wonder if there's anything better or if it's actually completely wrong. Confucius says that the man who asks a question is a fool, because of course he looks like a fool because he doesn't know the answer. That's why he's asking the question. But the man who does not ask the question is a fool for life. And so that is important. You have to be constantly asking yourself, is this the right thing? Plato said that we should know what is good and bad for us. In what we go through life, and again, his attempt was to pursue happiness. And of course, he had the utopia of the republic, where the ideal republic of the people for the people. And remember that in the American Constitution, the pursuit of happiness is in the first line of the Declaration of Independence, written by Thomas Jefferson. For him, the pursuit of happiness is looking for what is the best of us, rejecting what is bad. And we cannot then, if we know what that is bad, go on doing it. We have to do and choose the right things. And that is what we want, eternal happiness. Aristotle, the leader of history, teacher to Alexander the great philosopher, was very interested in medicine, even before Hippocrates. And he said that the virtue to develop is wisdom. And knowledge alone is not wisdom. Learning things and by rote memory and acquiring technical skills and having the right answers is not everything. Wisdom itself is something that you have to pursue. And the activity of study leads to this. And not only that, by studying and by learning, somehow, in those people that are very academic or curious and are in our profession, just a simple idea of learning something new is it gives you satisfaction. So study is important. And that's why we think that teaching our residents to learn and permanently change the way that they're doing things. And I always say that my life changes every 4 years, even to this day. It will be that way for you as well. You're now in residency training. Tomorrow, you'll be a fellow, then you will be in practice, then you will be having family. Then every time 4 years go past, things change completely. Our great educator, Jesus says, love one another, work for each other. Don't do against others that which you do not want for yourself. Have faith, do it for some spiritual means, and learn to forgive. There are many things that happen in life. You say, well, I wish that had not happened, but you just have to pass it on, forgive, and not make it your own. In Latin America, we have leaders in ophthalmic education, and I quote Newton Cara, Jose, who's in Brazil, Minas Gerais, who said that our developing countries need ophthalmologists, but need ophthalmologists that can actually take care of them. And I'll go back to the problem that we have not only with scarcity of ophthalmologists, but also all of them being concentrated in the largest cities. And what do they need? And for a while there, Brazil was offering a 2-year program in ophthalmology course without very many surgical skills. They're back to 3-year programs now. So if you go look at this slide, and this is from the Agency for Prevention of Blindness, and I directed the Vision 2020 committee for 4 years, you see that Argentina and Uruguay have the most ophthalmologists per million population. The United States is around 20 ophthalmologists per million, but notice in most of the other countries, or I'm sorry, the United States at 40, they have a lack of ophthalmologists in Haiti and Honduras being at the tail end of things. Barbados is an exception because of their population, it being so small. They only have, I think, like 200,000 people in the island. But most countries not only have a very few ophthalmologists, but most of them are not surgically trained. So in essence, they're doing clinical or medical ophthalmology, not surgical. So in Latin America, and this was written by Van Lansik, and I'm sure is in Querétaro in Mexico, listening to this talk, there's a high inequality, meaning not only are the ophthalmologists concentrated in the large cities, but they're only taking care of those that are well off. So you're not delivering the care to the general population. So there's a maldistribution. And he developed this beautiful graph where you have on the left side on the y-axis, those that are at a higher level of the population, meaning concentrated in the largest cities, and then those that are with great inequality in the poorer section. And you see that most of the ophthalmologists like to be where the wealthy are, and very few of them look after those that are in the interior. Our hospital, the Elias Santana Hospital, was founded in 1984, a year before I graduated from the Eye Institute. And from year one, and thanks to Dr. Norton and the inspiration from the faculty, we created what is known as the Model Eye Clinic, a clinic where not only were you to deliver ophthalmic education, but also you would take care of the poor. And this clinic has grown over time. At first, we would see 15 patients a day. Now, typically, we see between 800 and 1,000 patients a day. And you say, what made it possible? And I quote this leadership pyramid from Wooden, talking about what it takes to be successful. And competitive greatness is a complicated thing, but basically you have to have leadership and the heart in the right place. And if you look at all the items that are necessary in these success and qualities, leadership is probably paramount to it. And it all begins with vocation. If you don't have the vocation or in your heart the desire to change things, it is difficult to teach that. It requires a generous heart, a willingness to serve, a willingness to help other people. And the practice of ophthalmology, and this is something that you have hold dear to your heart, is a privilege. You are actually in a specialty where you're able, through your concepts, through your knowledge, through your ability and technical skills, to develop the return sight or avoid blindness to other people in the world. And especially those who wish to prevent blindness, and then to make it not only something that they benefit from it on their own, but actually something that they can help their community, their country, and the rest of the world, I think is vital. Aristotle said that education requires not only the brain, but also to have the heart in the right place. You have to not only learn what you have to do, but do it ethically, morally, doing the right thing, and doing it for everyone, not only for those that are able to afford it. So it's not a secret that the fear of blindness is at the heart of most human beings. They fear it more than cancer. They fear it more than a heart attack. They fear it more than even death. Going blind is a natural human instinct. We hate going blind. What will we do if we can't see the world? Close to using both your hands. Being an eye doctor offers you the opportunity to return sight to patients who have lost it or have some kind of reversible disease that you can treat or perhaps operate on. And this is what's made the Institute so great, because we've helped so many people over the years, and we've taught other people to help other people. And it is this incredible privilege that comes with a great deal of responsibility. And this must be assumed with generosity and also with integrity. And integrity was at the heart of Norton's legacy. I remember at a graduation, Norton saying, don't recommend treatment of a retinal tear because your children need new tennis shoes. You have to think about what the patient needs first, not what you need or what is best for your clinic or your center. Choosing residents in ophthalmology. This is quite a performance, and I guess Dr. Victor Curtin was the maestro of them all. He says, we look at not only the academic, personal, and professional attributes, there's so much more into your character, into your ability, things that are not part of what is your written application. It usually comes out of your actual interview. And there are many subjective attributes which go beyond personal appearance, dress, demeanor, and things of that nature, courtesy, manners. I remember the joke of somebody coughing in the interview, and they were just hoping to see that the candidate would offer a glass of water to see if they have the ability to help the interviewer in that moment of distress. Curtin taught me the science and art of choosing the right candidate. And he would remind me that you don't only choose people because mom and dad are good ophthalmologists and they have the genes in their body, but rather he said, I'd rather take the son of the person working in the gas station, somebody who really had to work hard to go through medical school and through his efforts was able to make it. And to remember that that individual which you accept into your ophthalmology training program within 3 years will be probably sitting at your dinner table. And you say, well, I want that person at my dinner table. And it was just a simple way of saying you look for more things than just the academic qualities. So we're looking for someone who has a mature commitment to the profession of ophthalmology, whose high academic achievement reveals the individual's talent, dedication, and his competitive nature, but that's not everything. We want the hardworking. We want those that are dedicated, and those who don't think like in baseball. They were born in third base. You know, in third base in baseball, you can score a run simply with a bunt, a pass ball, a sacrifice fly, or a squeeze play. I mean, it is very easy, but without any effort. It is getting to the all around the four bases that is critical. So we're looking for candidates that have clear goals and objectives that are, and they're not ambivalent about it, and who are willing to work. So going back to Latin America, our Latin American countries are filled with poor and indigent individuals that are not able to pay for their eye care. And yet they are the ones that come in with the hardest cataracts, with the most advanced glaucomas, retinal detachments that are 6 months old, people who are really in severe stages of blindness. Sometimes they wait for the second retina to detach before they actually come in for care. And in glaucoma, they come in when the second eye is about to go out because the first one's already been lost to advanced optic nerve disease. So the hard part is motivating those to serve their own and not we don't do any good by training them if they don't go back to their communities and their countries to do what they have to do. So what good does it do to society to have somebody trained if they're not if they all want to go back to the big city and make it big? On the contrary, we want the young professional to return back to their communities and do what they have to do and develop what they have to develop within their society and make it a better one. In a nutshell, we're looking for leaders with initiative and desire to serve. And they want things to be better, people who are striving to discover the new technologies, honest thinkers, those who question what is happening, not only those who are after money, fame, and power, but actually those who are actually for a better life and happiness for the remainder of the world. We're looking for professionals of good nature that are gentle, that are humane, generous, and hardworking. We have learned to appreciate these values and to recognize it in people. And this takes us to the new era. Things have changed drastically in global education. It used to be we would do it here in the classroom, in the training center, in the clinic, or in rounds or pre-op rounds. Now it's expanded. As we are speaking today, there are 300 people probably watching us through the Zoom meeting. There's Facebook, there's social media, there's Instagram, there's YouTube to be able to see and share the videos and different scenarios that are around. And the traditional classroom is now flipped. Now the student asks the question. We don't ask the question. The student is the one that comes around with a question and probably offer, as they did this morning by presenting in grand rounds. They had done the research, they had done the study, and it was Dr. Feng's beautiful presentation, because I know you had to do a lot of work to be able, but that remains in your mind forever. You don't lose that. So that's a typical flipped classroom model that you have presented today. Weekly lectures and YouTube, grand rounds has become the favorite source in media for ophthalmologists who've been out in practice, because they actually see real life cases. And we change the subject matter as you do every week. And then in Latin America, there have been, as in the rest of the world, and I attended an Asian Pacific meeting years ago, and it was amazing. Everybody was under the age of 30. I was the only person with white hair in that meeting. And because it is a completely new era. You'll have in Latin America the 4 greats, which are Faco Caribe with Dr. Scaf in Barranquilla, Colombia, Faco Extrema in Gerardo Valvecchia in Buenos Aires, Argentina. Faco Fest began their first day of the meeting in Mexico today, in Mexico City. And we also have in Spain, Faco Elche, and this is all joined in. But the traditional ones, which are the Pan American, the American Academy of Ophthalmology, these are the venues of ophthalmic education and have changed completely the way things are being done. Others like Alaxa or specialty societies, cornea societies, Castroviejo societies, societies that are dedicated, retina societies, pediatric ophthalmology societies, all these have changed the way we share. And much of it goes back to the initial concept that we have to learn and continue to learn and develop throughout our lives. Skills labs, dry labs, wet labs, being able to go in and practice computer models or models of practice. And students love to go in and practice in pig eyes and rabbit eyes, and or even the bionic eyes, that which will later be applied, and it makes them better surgeons. Here's a typical visit from our loved Paul Palmberg, who has trained every single glaucoma specialist in the Dominican Republic. There are about 28 of them, and they've all done fellowships. Some of them stayed in his own house while they were doing their visit to the Eye Institute. And William McCollum is currently our coordinator. Dr. Arbaje is the chief of our glaucoma department. All these people were developed and trained by Dr. Palmer only for one single country. And then I have this slide that was presented in Durban, South Africa in 2016 by Orbis, showing in a country that is a third is French speaking, which is Haiti, and on the other side is the Dominican Republic. In 2016, we had about 10.3 million and 10.6. Now it's 11 and 11. And lo and behold, Haiti had 65 eye doctors and we had 425. As a matter of fact, Haiti had 1,500 MDs all total for the country, and we had 33,000 at that point in time. And obviously that has to do with the number of cataract operations that they could perform 4,000 a year. We're up to 30,000 a year at this point in time. And that means that the efforts to educate people and to multiply yourself are critical in order to maintain this blindness prevention programs. And this is what's made it possible for us to grow and perhaps for others not to have that ability. So here's my graduation class with all my students, my multiplication effect, doing that which has been learned with my faculty members that were handpicked, and those students which are now ophthalmologists, and our surgical rate, which began way back with 1,500 cases in a year. We do nearly 5,000 cataract operations a year, especially the dip here that you see, by the way, was COVID-19, but we're back up to 150% of what we were doing before the pandemic. So then we asked Wooden what he would say about success, and that's the peace of mind that is a direct result of the self-satisfaction, the fact that you've done the right thing, and knowing that you did your best to become the best and that you're capable of becoming that. That's where the true happiness that Plato talked about and Aristotle as well. And that peace of mind, because you have rehabilitated so many people and you've helped so many other people. And I mentioned that we see 800 patients a day, and most of them are poor. That's our mission. And I'm eternally grateful to our chief, to Dr. Norton, to what I learned from him. And sometimes I feel like I hear from him every day. And he would always say, think about how you would solve that. And I wish he were still around to be able to do that. But in my mind, I know that Dr. Norton, through his legacy and what we have inherited, still lives in our heart. And I wanted to thank the Eye Institute for giving me this opportunity to talk about education and go on and pass forward that which you have learned. Thank you.